I just woke up. I watched this documentary from, this EDP documentary. And at first, I reacted to the trailer and I said, do we really need this? You know what I mean? I was like, do we really need this? But I caved. I watched it, right? This is my immediate reaction. And the truth of the matter is, this documentary was really good. It was really well executed. Shout out to, I believe, is Mike Klum. He did his, he did his number on this one because it gave every, angle and nuance of this whole situation with EDP445. And this is I view everything spiritually. I look at everything, I see everything for what it is and, for what it represents more so than what's being, presented to all of us and to me. And just that's just in life in general. You know what I mean? Nothing gets past me. That's something I always say. And the thing about this dude is, everybody was like big on making a joke out of his situation, like flaming him for views and covering this whole situation. But this documentary put a lot of things into perspective. Now I'm gonna go ahead and say off the dribble, EDP is about to, his life is over. Genuinely, I mean that literally. Like he's about to go ahead and be 6 feet under momentarily. And this right here was basically him leaving his legacy behind. And you know, it's ugly, but it's his legacy. This is what he's known for. So he went ahead and just gave everyone a life update and a synopsis of what the situation was for him, what he did afterwards, and then they brought in everyone who was surrounding the situation, whether they covered it or they tried to catch him. So I just want to start from the beginning of the just kind of how it made me feel when I was watching this, right? And you can give your thoughts on how I felt in my opinion, but he's definitely given up on life, like, and we'll get to that. But in the beginning, how they were talking about, I'm thinking that this was just gonna be like, I wasn't familiar with this man's game. He made a documentary about Boogie before, and I mean, the thing about Boogie is everyone was just like, "Oh man, you're just sympathy baiting. That's your thing," and people were making fun of him and stuff. But he didn't have a situation as serious as EDP situation, obviously. They did not have a situation as serious as EDP's, obviously. So, that's why the video was the way it was. But the thing about the EDP situation is the first thing, with the whether, the person that he was trying to solicit all of the, this stuff from was, she was what, 13? And Alex, that was the one that Alex Rosen butchered. You know what I mean? Alex Rosen butchered that one because Alex Rosen heard that EDP was, interested in younger kids from a YouTuber, and the YouTuber sent him evidence saying that this is what he's interested in, and that he follows a bunch of these younger people and all that. So then Alex Rosen's decoy reached out to him first, and as soon as the decoy reached out to him first, it was over with. And I like that they had Chris Hansen on the documentary because Chris Hansen was basically there as a barometer of success or failure for these catches, for these sting operations. And what Chris Hansen said was that this made it that, as soon as the decoy reached out first, the case was unprosecutable off the dribble. So, okay, cool. Now we understand why he's a free man the first time. But then the second time, which was the one that Jadeon and Skeeter Jean botched, it was crazy because that person who ended up becoming the decoy for Jadeon, it seemed like they were actually in touch with EDP organically and then reached out. Either Jadeon reached out or one of them reached out when it was found out that she was talking to EDP, right? The second girl. And then Jadeon and them basically they had her messaging him and stuff like that, right? But what's janky is the girl shows the other side of things, right? The nuance of some of these things where it is the problem. When you're obviously if you're a grown person, talking to a younger person is not allowed. You can't do that. You know what I mean? And these dudes, what's their favorite thing to say? Oh, well, she was this and she was that. She was doing this. She was reaching out like this and like that. Well, this girl was actually playing the game. And she even says in the documentary, yeah, I'm an opportunist, but what's wrong with that? You know what I mean? Oh, Jadeon used me and this and that, right? And it just showed how no one is really, clean all around to get this type of thing done. This is always going to be a dirty, grimy situation when it comes to this dude. And when it comes to some of these cases in general, but I'll say this, that girl made a lot of victims, look bad. Um, or not look bad, but she gave some validity to what some of these dudes are saying when they say, oh, she did this, she did that, because here's this person that organically was in touch, found out about the Alex Rosen situation, and was an opportunist to try to get some clout, whatever the case. But mind you, a younger person, a high schooler, doing just stupid high school things, you don't even realize what you did when you said you said that. And now, she's 18, talking about it on the documentary, had your Dion and Skeeter Jean on the documentary. And even then, now they do these catches and stuff like that. But as far as like morally, a lot of these things are morally and ethically gray and nuanced because, again, just because of what she had to say in this documentary. So I think she was overall, a L for putting herself in that position to be preyed upon. But at the same time, again, we like what's over there with when it comes to EDP. Don't go over there. Don't go over there. Don't play over there. And Jadeon, this person is an organic victim at the very end of the day. Even though, look, this person is a victim because EDP has no business interacting with them, and they don't even really understand fully what's going on. But at the same time, she's trying to make it sound like she do. You know what I mean? She got caught up in a bunch of lies and all that. So I thought it was clever in the documentary to include that side of things and to and to continuously have you critically thinking throughout the entire documentary. I'm gonna get to my opinion at the end of all of this though. Trust. Um. So after the second situation with Jadeon and everything, it's like okay, you have now your questions rise like, well, are these catchers really doing it for this and that? Because you have Chris Hansen like, oh, they did such a bad job clowning around, cupcake soup, you know what I mean, reaching out first and all that, and then they question Chris Hansen. Well, aren't you doing this for views as well? But Chris Hansen, you can't really question his resume too much because he was out here getting people locked up. You know what I mean? He was. He was doing it on Dateline NBC. He was getting people locked up. And now, Jadeon and them, they do get people locked up and they realize the error of their ways. But understand, this dude is free because they botched their only attempts to catch him. You know what I mean? And he did get arrogant, but I'm gonna come back to that. So then, they talk about his family life. They talk about, his life falling apart, how he felt about everything. Um, I mean, yeah, they essentially just went over everything, and they humanized. They did a good job of humanizing EDP because again, it makes you skeptical and makes you feel something towards this dude. He's talking about having kidney failure and he's being on dialysis, right? Understand, he's going to die soon, very soon, very soon. Which is the reason why he even agreed to this documentary in the first place. Because at this time, which was a year ago, he was already on his way out. And he may be, honestly, he could be dead right now. We don't know. Because this is from last year. Like this documentary was over a 6-month span, I believe, from 2024 to 2025. So that's why everybody looks a little different than they do now. But yeah, no, he very well could be gone. And this was his memoir before he checked out, before he gave up. Because he was in the video, he was like, I have stage 5 kidney failure, but I'm still gonna do whatever I want to do. That was how he was going about it, bro. He had stage 5 kidney failure, but he was like, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. That's how he went about it. And then they talk about his addiction to explicit content on the internet, right? And that was when the look in his eyes changed. Now we're starting to get to, the net of it, because he kept saying things in these chat logs. He was obsessed with innocence, taking innocence, doing this, digging the innocence out of you. This is what he was obsessed with. He was obsessed with that. And when he's talking about these videos, you can see the look in his eyes change and look a little bit more dead. You know what I mean? We're seeing a lot more. The eyes are the windows to the soul. That's what they say. And you're looking into the eyes of, understand, devil just means deceiver. That's all it means. It just means deceiver. You're looking into the eyes of a devil, right? And he's a charming guy. He's a funny guy, right? And that's how my grandfather, he always told me, that's how the devil approaches you. He approaches you with a smile on his face, cracking jokes. He offers to take your coat. He offers you something to drink. And then when you're comfortable, he strikes. That's the reason why these types of criminals are the lowest of the low. You understand? Because they're obsessed with going after people who in reality, like, I see kids play with toys and play at the playground. I feel sad because the world don't deserve them. These are the type of people that exist in the world, and there are a lot of this. Okay, men and women. There are a lot of men and women who prey on children one way or another. You know what I mean? A lot. Like, it's very much a gauntlet out here. You understand? So in this documentary, you see the look in his eyes change when he's talking about what he's into and what gets his rocks off, right? And when he's in the dark, laying on the bed on the mattress, looking at the laptop, searching up, and the dude who is with him is like, asking him some questions. He kind of going along with it. That's just the same way that investigators go along with a criminal when they catch him the first time. And he's like, yeah, man, I like this, I like that. And you just see like that dead look in his eyes. You don't ignore that type of look. That's the look of somebody who's essentially, you're starting to see exactly what's wrong with them. You know what I mean? Character flaws, right? So then you get through that part, and then he starts talking about how, he's never really, he's always wanted human connection. He's never had a human connection. He's on dating apps, and he's talking about he won't settle for less. He's giving his opinion about certain things, and of course it makes you roll your eyes at him, say, oh my gosh, this guy, right? And then eventually he actually meets somebody on the dating app, gets the number, chops it up. The girl becomes his girlfriend for some months, 2 or 3 months. And the director asks, oh, well, how's y'all's sex life? And then you see, again, that same dead look in his eyes. He starts looking around and she starts looking around. Oh, well, because there was no splashing going on. There was no splashing going on. See? And that, again, that's what you see, that dead look in his eyes again. That lets you know this is what he really is in it for. When somebody is a fast talking dude, right? Fast talking young lady, looks you in the eyes, very charming and all that. Get real with them, because when you actually do mention what their game, when you mention it, you see that dead look in their eyes, even if it's just a Freudian slip for a second. Okay, this is what it means to be street smart. Okay, there's a lot of people who tout being book smart, who stand on that. I've dated women that were very book smart, but they were out of touch when it comes to, noticing certain things spiritually and just in reality, what goes of situations. When you see that dead look in somebody's eyes, there's no mistaking it. It makes you feel something. The physical signs from God that we receive, that's our gut feeling. That's our heart racing. Don't ignore that, Because when I seen that, that's exactly how I felt when I seen that, when he mentioned that again. I said, "Oh man, he may mess around." And we're honestly lucky that we had, EDP 445 under a microscope for so long, because he was obsessed with violence. He was obsessed with flashing. He was obsessed with, explicit videos. He hated women, yet he craved them at the same time, but he craved them objectively, meaning that he looked at them as objects of desire, which to some degree women are objects of desire to us as men, right? But what do I mean by that? Meaning that they have the right to choose, and when they choose, they seduce. But if you're not chosen and you out here chasing and trying to force it, it gets dangerous for everybody, because again, mankind, we are the apex predator of the universe, of the earth. And then you got a man who's emotional and who's bottled up. Dangerous for any woman to be around. You know what I'm saying? So I'm surprised. I'm glad that nothing happened to her, because again, had him under a microscope. He didn't want to do jail time. He expressed that in this documentary as well. But he knows. He knows that these are his last days, which is again why he did the documentary. And by the very end of it, like, even look at this look in his face right now. You see how his eyes are dead? This is what I mean. If you see somebody smile without their eyes, right? They're able to look at you and give you that dead look. They're really about this close from doing what it is they want to do. You got it's like the Obsession girl, how she looks when she is smiling, right? Or Rico on Paid in Full, when he said, "You got 14 bricks right there," after he was just like, "Yeah, man, you my man," blah blah blah. You know what I mean? You see how, like, he's smiling with that dead look in his eyes. Like, he can't keep his eyes off of what, if there was he could be smiling at something, and then imagine they put somebody right next to him that fit his bill. He would be like smiling, but like, looking at what it is that he really want. Don't ignore those looks. Because again, this right here is this documentary was a lesson of exactly what to look for when you're dealing with somebody that you feel as though, may need to be on the list somewhere. The last thing that threw me off, not threw me off, but one of the more notable pieces of this was the AI situation. To the very end, he's talking about how, and I'm not gonna lie, bro. Instagram, Facebook, all y'all need to address this. Y'all need to address this ASAP, because understand, when he said this, he said, okay, look, I'm just gonna tell you what he said, or should I play it? I don't want to play much of this, because one, obviously I don't think he's gonna copyright strike, but you don't know, I forget what he said exactly, and he was wilding, bro. He was wilding. Okay, but I'm gonna put another language. So he said he used the AI girlfriends feature on Instagram or whatever sites, because it does exist on Instagram. You can chat with an AI bot on Instagram now. But there have been AI sites where you can have an AI girlfriend, right? They market them to people on all, explicit sites, Twitter, you name it. So he signs up for one, and he said that he was role playing, and the guy wanted to get footage of what the role playing was. He said, "What was the role play about?" He said, "Nah, man, I can't show you that." He said, "Why not?" He said, "What were y'all role playing about?" He said that he was role playing, that he was making the AI bot pretend and present itself as if the AI bot was, 16, 17. So that's where it's like, what do you mean 16? What do you mean 17? That's where it's like, oh, he keeps going back to it. He can't help it. He can't help it. And at first, when they put his friend on screen to defend him, or to basically say, "Hey, this is my friend. I don't believe that he was, I was like, okay, W friend. Then he said, I don't believe that he did this and he's innocent. I said, L friend. Because what do you mean? You don't believe that he did this? So you got to look at the village too. The village is fried. The village is fried. Now, with all of that being said, I want to give my opinion. Those are some of the highlights of the documentary. I didn't want to play it in full because this man was wilding, and also, you know, I try my best to just keep it just me on here. You know what I mean? I don't want to be, a full-fledged reaction channel on here. I cover things and I bring up articles and I bring up segments of videos to kind of hammer home the point, but I don't want it to just be like, oh, I'm gonna react to 3 hours of like. Don't nobody want to see that from me yet. I'm new, bro. Pause, but I'm new, bro. If you know, you know. So I figured I'll give a breakdown, a synopsis, a summary, and then give my opinion at the end. So here's my opinion, right? Me, I'm a spiritual guy. Got a relationship with God, right? Just like everybody. Even if you don't necessarily have a belief, I feel as though there is a relationship there. I do feel as though, he is watching over everybody, right? But there are some people who are agents of chaos. There are some people who are agents of Satan, which Satan just means adversary, man. Satan just means adversary. That's it. Take the mythology, take the magic out of it. It just means adversary, okay? The greatest adversary, the world's greatest adversary, okay? God's adversary, the world's greatest adversary, you and mine greatest adversary, right? There are people who are the agents of, you know, Satan himself, right? The adversary. This is one of those guys, man. You know what I mean? Charming dude, jolly looking guy. You see him walking down the street, you want to say, "Hey, how are you? How are you doing?" You almost feel bad when you see him because he's a loser, bro. He's a loser. He's a L man's. But he does use that to his advantage. The same way there are people, like how Boogie would use that to his advantage to get money on the internet. But the difference is he don't care about money. He don't care about money. He don't care about a positive lifestyle. He's actually, withering away during this documentary, breaking down. And he could be gone now. If not, he's getting ready to let go now that the documentary is out. I'm sure he will be on his way out very soon. Nothing else to hold on to, bro. This guy has nothing to lose at all. So he's an agent of the world's greatest adversary, right? And his job, his thing, his obsession has been with, he's downplaying it, but he's been obsessed with younger people, underage individuals for quite some time, obviously. Obviously. To the point to where he only got caught twice, as far as we know. But when they went through his follower list, the first guy to expose him, he said like 100 people that he followed out of the 400 people, they were all underage. And I'm sure he sent them all DMs, and they probably the majority of younger individuals. We were raised, don't answer the door for anybody. You know what I mean? If you're on the internet, be careful. Stranger danger, right? That's how we came up. At least I hope. So he probably didn't get any hits back then. But once he became a YouTuber, then he was probably trying to just leverage that. Because I wouldn't be surprised if this man became a YouTuber just for leverage. Because in reality, there was nothing else he had going for him. Nothing else. And I mean, that he did. He used his YouTube moniker to go and DM. He didn't use a fake account, as far as I know. He used real accounts. And the things that he was saying in these messages, it lets you know how dangerous of a person this guy is. He was obsessed with taking innocence. He was obsessed with being a younger individual's first. He was role playing with the AI chatbots, that the AI chatbots were gonna be underage as well. He was, bro, you name it. He was worried about the people who have the least amount of agency, the least amount of understanding. And his excuse was that he had no human connection, no connection with women at his age. But then it showed. But then he showed that he could grab some his. He pulled some his age. Talked to her for a few months. Dated her for over a year. He dated her for a year, and she wouldn't even let him hit. Sad case. Sad case indeed. So she wouldn't even let him splash, and that was his girl because she knew something was wrong with him. But she was lonely, so she stuck by him because he would stay there. He let her without having to give up nothing. But this was a last. This was his last. Him basically saying, "Yeah, I'm a monster. I know. I don't care. I don't care." He quit therapy after the documentary. He's on his way out, bro. He's checking out. He's checking out. This was just basically him saying, you know, I'm free. I did all that dirt and I'm still free. F y'all. This wasn't no documentary clearing his name. He don't care about that. He's an agent of chaos, bro. That's it. So if you watch this documentary and you felt, oh man, poor kid and blah blah blah, and he got set up, I already know what type of person you are, bro. I don't need to take. I can never take you serious. You know what I'm saying? I don't even get mad, bro, because I don't think anyone is gonna disagree with me like that. I think people may see, they may not care to look into it that deep. They may just say, oh, F him, he's a bad person, which is real. That's facts. But I just can't help the way that I see things. I gotta look into people's psyche, man. I do. I'm just that type of person. The why doesn't matter. It's really just what are we being what is his motivation in doing this kind of. It's like it is why, but it's not at the same time. Like I don't care why he's interested in young. I don't care. But see, the thing about it is, it's like, how does this, seeing his mannerisms and these things, if I take an inventory of the people in my life, do I see similar things? Do I need to make any more? That's how I look at, seeing some of these things. I grew up, my parents, they showed us serial killers and stuff when we were younger, documentaries. I'm watching documentaries my whole life, bro. So, that's how I look at things. He's one of them ones that he came and went. He was an example. The world needed to see this type of thing because this was a cautionary tale. This could have been something super dangerous and serious. This could have been something, man, he could have went on a spree and did the most. I'm not going to give him too much credit, but he could have definitely racked a few up. Maybe a body by the end of all of this, right? Because that's how it seemed, that's how these guys get down. But it's the fact that he was on YouTube and under a microscope that I believe ultimately did keep some people safe, as far as, and also his mind being in his body and his player build probably did also, repel a lot of people. Straight up. Like, they're younger individuals, they're underage, and yes, that is true, but at the same time, I don't care how old you are. You're not gonna be attracted to this dude, man. It's just not gonna happen. Because even the Joan who chose him wasn't letting him come on. She wasn't attracted to him like that. She was just lonely. He probably told her to come on for a documentary. Not for a documentary, but just to come on. Like, come on, bro. You know what time it is. So y'all leave y'all opinions in the comments, man. I didn't watch anybody's reaction. I don't want to. I don't want to hear a joke about it. I don't want to hear anybody downplaying it. I don't want to hear anyone going over the top either. I don't want any theatrics around it. That's why I give the takes I take, because we gonna relate things to real life around here. That's just what we do. So y'all leave y'all opinions, man. But leave a like, subscribe. I'm going, man.